Welcome back to the Pro Sports Podcasters. My name is Corbert. You know me as Kobe on the podcast, and today I'm with NWB.
Name Wallace-Bruce.
And we're going to look at what's been going on with a team that's dear to my heart, and I think Nee's become quite the fan as well, and that's Team Canada, looking to qualify for the World Cup in Qatar.
There we go. So the 2022 edition is very much within reach for Team Canada. They've struggled historically. They haven't qualified since 1986. But if you look at the standings right now, they're undefeated.
And I think what's most impressive about that span of 11 games is they've been very good defensively, which has usually been a weakness for Team Canada, but it isn't this year. And on top of that, they've achieved this without some of their best players being able to play.
Yeah, it's been interesting, Kobe, because unfortunately they lost Alphonso Davies just before the start of the January swing of matches. He contracted COVID-19 and he's had some complications since, so he actually hasn't been able to play for his club Bayern Munich since then. And I would imagine we won't see Davies on the field until closer to the World Cup in November, December, which is in Qatar. It's probably a blessing in disguise that it is in winter this time, because
That's right.
If it was in June,
He probably wouldn't be there at all.
he probably wouldn't be there at all. So it does show that Canada has depth. They've got players who can step up, next man up, and it does look bright for the future for this team.
Yeah, we're top of the table in CONCACAF. We're followed somewhat closely by USA and Mexico. We're at 25 points. They're at 21. But the bonus here is that you've only got 3 games left, and one of their games involves them playing against each other. So effectively, one should really eliminate the other from any sort of contention when it comes to us having to make the cut for the Qatar World Cup. So I'm expecting us to probably get 2 more wins and a draw in the next 3 games, to be honest with you.
And that would be a good result. I mean, to finish a World Cup campaign undefeated is pretty strong, and that also can factor into the seedings for the draw, which I believe the draw takes place in March, April, which is a little bit odd considering that the 4th place team in CONCACAF has to play against another confederation in June. But anyway, more on that another time.
Now, given the recent political atmosphere and the worldwide atmosphere and what's going on, we were discussing this amongst ourselves, but as of right now, it looks like Ukraine will qualify for the World Cup.
Well, they've qualified for the playoffs. So, as I said, there's playoffs coming up in March, and in Europe, UEFA. And it's somewhat ironic that Ukraine will be there, and Russia will also be there.
That's right.
Now, Polish striker Robert Lewandowski has already come out and said he doesn't want to play against Russia. He's the captain of Poland. And Sweden, who are also in the same bracket as Russia, we could potentially face off against the Russians if they win their match. They've come out and said they don't want to play the Russians either. So UEFA has some decisions to make in terms of that.
And generally speaking, UEFA is usually pretty on the fence when it comes to these things, but when push comes to shove, something's going to have to happen. And I think you were right in saying that during the conflict in Yugoslavia, well, former Yugoslavia, the Yugoslavian team, which was a powerhouse at the time, was banned from the World Cup.
Yeah, from memory it was in the 90s, and yes, they were excluded. I don't think they were allowed to qualify in 1994. Their clubs were removed from the Champions League, Champions Cup at the time, and the UEFA Cup. So that hurt Red Star Belgrade, because Red Star Belgrade were European champions in that period, and they had to start from the bottom. So there is a precedent when it comes to that. From memory, I believe there's been other precedents where the Confederation has stepped in and said this team cannot play because of certain external matters going on, and it will be interesting to see if they go down a similar path when it comes to Russia.
Now, getting back to Team Canada, I mean, for most people, qualifying for a World Cup at this point would be a big win for us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's practically already happened, but I see as though that isn't enough, to be honest. I don't want to be one of these teams that just shows up to the World Cup to get their asses handed to them and then go home. I honestly think that they've developed a style of play and a a team that can probably get out of the group stage, depending on where they get matched up.
Absolutely, and that's why, Corbett, I say it's important that they finish the qualifying strong, because the more matches they win, the better their ranking is, and qualifying does get taken into account. Like, they put the balls in the pots with a draw. So if they can finish strong in these next 3 games, then you're looking at potentially being in a better pot, and you avoid some of those stronger teams because you're in the same pot with those stronger teams.
Correct. So if you're not familiar with how the seeding works in the World Cup, basically what they do is they take the top seeded teams and they put them at the top of each group. So each group will have one of the top seeded teams as a guarantee. Then they take the next group of seeded teams and they randomize them as to which group they'll be in. So you have a top seeded team, then a second tier team, then they do it with the third tier, and then they do it with the final. So what Nee's getting at is if Canada, who I believe right now is ranked 33rd in the world, if they can continue to elevate themselves up the world rankings, there's a very good chance that they're not going to make it to a top tier team, but they could be that second tier team. So by that seeding, it would have one team above them that's expected to beat them, but then 2 teams below them that they are theoretically expected to beat. It doesn't always work out that way because sometimes powerhouse teams just don't have the greatest qualifications and end up lower than ranked than they should be, but by doing so, at least they give themselves the best opportunity. So that's what we're talking about. It's important that they finish strong.
Absolutely, and especially in a tournament where you could play into their hands slightly. This tournament will be played in December. The MLS will be wrapping up around them, so it might be helpful for the MLS-based players. And also, it's in the Middle East, so it'll be warm, but it'll be less warm compared to if they played in June.
That's right. You won't have one of those situations that we've seen in South America at times where some of the European teams or CONCACAF teams just can't handle it. This could be a situation where it isn't nearly as harsh a temperature than that you would expect. Again, we're talking about a very rich nation. The stadium's supposed to be top tier, but this is all supposed to be, so we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. But nevertheless, as Kobe said, Canada is pretty much qualified for this World Cup, and they've definitely qualified for the next World Cup 2026. This is all momentum building. This Canadian team can really do some great stuff in the next 4 to 5 years and beyond.
And something I want to stress, because being a huge soccer fan and enjoying World Cup after World Cup after World Cup, as a Canadian, it's become the customary thing to fly the flag of whatever nationality your parents came from. Right? That's basically how it works. For me, that's the Netherlands primarily, right? I'm half Dutch, half Jamaican, so it's not often Jamaica can make the World Cup. So for me, it's always the Netherlands. But it'll be nice to finally have a chance to not only support the Netherlands, but support Team Canada. So I'm hoping a lot of you get on board with this team. Do so now, because we've got a team that can really compete. We really do. We are not also rants.
Yeah, the future's bright for Canadian football. I mean, the women won the gold medal in Tokyo. They're always doing well at the World Cup. They're always in line for a medal. The dog agrees with me. And the men, this is their chance to catch up and make the World Cup and make noise. So I want to see that happen in the future.
Noble's a fan.
Noble is on board with the Herdman approach to football.
Now, if you want to keep up to date with all of our tips, breaking news stories, articles, do yourself a favor, follow us on our social medias. We're on Instagram at pro.sports.podcasters. We're on Twitter at ppodcasters. We've got a website up and running now.
Yep, www.prosportspodcasters.com, and you can also sign up for our newsletter there. So you can scroll down to the bottom of the page and just jump in. It costs you nothing. So join that, and also look for us on Discord. You can find some of us on Discord, right?
That's right, especially when it comes to the NFT projects that you can start to follow. And of course, if you follow our YouTube, you'll see we got a lot of information on there. So get involved. Feel free to drop us a comment, even if it's just to say that you're enjoying the show. We'd appreciate it. But we love debates. So if we say anything that you disagree with, let us know. and we'll have a little talk about it, a little chat.
There we go. We enjoy your company as always.
And if you haven't yet, definitely check out the podcast. We had a lot of great guests on it, both past and future and present. So check out the podcast. Whichever sport you may be a fan of, just type it in the search, and I'm guaranteed you're probably going to find something or someone that we've interviewed that's got something to do with it.
There we go.
Until next time.